One thing that I think that I wish I had understood a little bit more from the beginning is what is your minimum going to be and why? In the beginning, for me, it was like, well, I'm so young, I'm just going to take whatever I can. Ultimately, you do all the math and you ended up not really making a lot of money.
All right, all right. Hey, hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Roy Uwe, and welcome to episode 10. We hit the double digits, guys. We hit double digits. We are on episode 10 of Breaking Down Business. If you are new to this channel, join me as we interview everyday business owners and hear how they break down their business from their success, strategies, tools, all the way down to their struggles and hardships. So stay tuned till the end because there are obviously amazing takeaways that you can learn from and implement in your business today. So, on today's episode, we have Kelly Marie with Fleur. She is located in Chicago in Logan Square. It is a lifestyle boutique and custom florist. Next week, look at this. Next week, they turned 20 years old. So she opened this business when she was 22 years old and has built a very successful business. They've been featured in Vogue magazine, Martha Stewart weddings, and a couple of other publications. So it is important to note that they are not just a florist. They also operate in 3,300 square feet, two spaces where you can find retail gifts, home goods, and then obviously the floral production. So, Kelly, hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, thank you for being on our show. This is as I'm going through all this amazing list. Wow, 22 years.
Yeah, it doesn't
Or
really
20, sorry,
fit.
20 years. 20
20,
years.
20 years.
20 years, but you started when you were 22.
I started when it was a lot of twos because we opened in 2002. It's
Okay.
20 years old.
And then this is 2022. Here we
This
go.
is
This is
2022.
this is it was meant to be. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So yes, as you kind of mentioned already, let's kind of run through like the backstory, how you started, what got you into, you know, floor.
Yeah. So, it's funny. When I was in college, I worked actually at Whole Foods in the floral department. And that's where I really kind of got my basic background knowledge, learning just flower names. I was studying art and art history, so I knew a
Okay.
lot about design and color theory. And when I graduated, I stayed with the company for a while and honestly opened up Fleur because I was just inspired by flowers. I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago, very typical Chicago bungalow, but we were always, my mom had a huge garden. So I think it seemed like a very natural move for me to work within the industry. Um, but I did not have a business plan. I kind of jumped right in. I think, at 22 years old, you're pretty fearless.
Right.
So I thought, I'm out of college. Let me just find a little storefront in the Logan Square neighborhood and let me try it. So
Wait, so you went head first. Were you still working at Whole Foods at that time? I'm trying to figure out like the transit quote unquote transition period, right? Because every entrepreneur goes through this transition period where we work multiple jobs as we got the side project, side hustle
mhm.
project, as one would call, until we could actually get the proper funding.
Yeah, no, so I did quit my job and then opened, but while I was the first couple of years, I did actually bartend.
Okay.
I worked at a bar as a bar back just to kind of make ends meet. Cause yeah, when you're 22, it's, starting out, you're not gonna make a lot of money right away the way I did it, at least. So I always say I learned from my mistakes, and that's how we've gotten as far as we have. So
Beautiful. So let's actually kind of go right into that actually, because I'm actually again very intrigued with you're like you quit the job and then you went straight into finding a spot, a location, not having a business plan. Like what was going through your head?
yeah, I thought at the time I was always inspired by European flower shops and sort of the
Okay.
bodega style. So that was really my inspiration, thinking, we'll have this great little shop with bundles of flowers. People can pick them up on their way to work, on their way home. I opened at 8 a.m. originally, 8 a.m. until I think 7 p.m. So it was long hours, but the morning crowd was going on their way to work. They needed a last minute gift for a coworker. Um, and I pretty quickly realized, obviously, selling bundles of flowers doesn't really pay the rent.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's when I realized I needed to start getting into special events and weddings. That was a natural movement into events. But I was self-taught at that point. I had to kind of learn everything. So it went from, small, cute little bundles of bouquets, candles, a few little gift items here and there, to full on events, and, teaching myself how to design centerpieces of all different styles. I learned sales very quickly on how to sell to the client. I learned logistics very quickly in terms of how to figure out timelines and production schedules and things like that. So I really jumped in, really.
It definitely sounded like you jumped in other than the experience, right, that you gained from Whole Foods. Now I'm actually just thinking, I'm like, all right, I got the spot. Now what? Like, how did like what was going through your head as far as where do I need to find? Like, I'm like, where do you find product? How do you stage it? And also, I mean, the big question here is capital.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did have a loan in the beginning, which was really
Okay.
helpful. I did have a business partner in the beginning as well. So there were two of us.
Okay.
And that loan kind of helped us get off of our feet in terms of buying all of the fixtures that we needed to display our product, things like that. And then really it just went, a month by month, budgeting to make sure that you could pay all of your bills, buy new product, buy fresh flowers, and kind of go from there. So not again, I think in retrospect, obviously, I would have a pro forma filled out to the nines and all different kinds of metrics to do it differently. But so it was very day by day and week by week in the beginning. We had a local wholesaler for floral in Chicago that we can go to 6 days a week to pick out the flowers, which is great because we could always guarantee that they were going to be fresh and
Right.
beautiful. And then in regards to gifts, I really had to start to research finding different sales reps. And fortunately, I feel like with sales, once you find one person, kind of everyone starts to find you and people start to come to you as well.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's just networking and getting your name out there, but also too at the same time, like what you were saying, is going out there and getting it and like looking specifically. Because again, 20 years ago, they didn't have social media.
nope, none. So different.
Definitely different. So actually, let's kind of jump into this question that I do have for you. Let's just say, what are like the things you wished you knew before starting your own business?
Yeah, I think number one, I think is just having a little bit more of a business plan, a little bit more of a structure. So, like I said, having a pro forma where you just look at all of your overhead costs, things that you don't think about. Even something as simple as tissue paper and how you're going to wrap your gifts for your clients. Where are you going to source all of your tools and materials that you need from? Having that as a background is that's going to be sort of your structure for how you can turn a profit, right?
Yeah.
So that for sure, I think is one of the most important things before anyone starts. And it's a little frustrating to write those things out because so much of it is a guessing game and it's not guaranteed,
Right.
but at least it gets your brain moving in the direction of thinking that way. And you can start to prepare for any curveballs that are thrown at you as well. I think the next thing too is just knowing your numbers, just
Yes.
opening up that bank account or QuickBooks or whatever kind of accounting program that you use and checking it every single day so that you know exactly where you are. And again, so that you don't have those curveballs thrown at you.
Did you, I guess, how did you learn, for example, like a QuickBooks of some sort or like budgeting? Because again, we're all like, I had to figure that out as well. So I
Mhm.
bet, all of our listeners are probably at this stage too of like, Excel sheet, got it. What's next? Budgeting. Okay, how do we attack that?
Yeah, it was not easy. I think that, like I mentioned, I went to school for art and art history. I definitely
Right.
am more of a creative. So I think a lot of small businesses, like you're just not necessarily always wired to think about these things. And I had gone through, I think, 3 different accountants to try to help them understand what it was I was doing,
Yeah.
because we do have retail and we do have special events, and those numbers don't necessarily match up. You have to look at it as 2 separate businesses. So I finally learned that I really needed to drill my before I hired an accountant or a bookkeeper, I needed to really drill them with, this is what I do. These are the things that I need. I need to understand my numbers in a way that's a little bit more precise than just lumping things together.
Right.
And uh, really just trying to wrap your head around the fact that it is so important, and acknowledging that it's that important to pay attention to every single day. So yeah, it didn't come naturally to me, and I definitely had to do a lot of research in order to find the right person.
Mhm.
And yeah, again, I started with Excel. That didn't work for me, and finally when I got onto QuickBooks, I just did some training, lots and lots of training actually.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I'm looking back at like when I started, the screen printing shop, and literally, I had just a little list just for me to tally up the math aspect. And again, like that was my like little cheat sheet guide
It's
that
so
I had.
true.
But again, I think it's just knowing just to see the basic numbers and like utilities, and then here's how much this is going to cost, like what you were talking about, and just breaking that part down is key to kind of see like what your overhead cost is. And then also, after being in business, you're just like, well, what's your overall cost? All right, how much do you need to bring in profit wise? And then this plus that minus that, yada yada yada, and then here's your math. So
Exactly.
yeah, no. What other, so you named two things. What other uh advice can you give us?
Yeah, I think in terms of advice, I think really, making sure that you believe in yourself and you charge what you are worth as well. That was something when I was younger. I think because I was so young when I started out, and I definitely could tell, there were people that didn't take me as seriously as I would have liked. You really kind of fight with imposter syndrome a little bit.
Yep.
So there were times I don't think I marked up the items in the way that I should have. Or, people would come to me and explain, oh, I really don't have a large budget. And I would kind of let my emotions lead with that. So I'd be quoting them an event where my labor was not necessarily as high. And with that, I guess a second part to that as well is understanding that, when you are coming up with your pricing,
Yeah.
especially in a creative field,
Yeah.
um, with labor, where it's just not, like a 2-time markup or a 3-time markup. Um, knowing that there are people out there that are willing to spend what it is that you need to pay your bills to, not second
Right.
guessing yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You made a phenomenal point on that. No, I appreciate it. So, guys, for all the listeners, keep on listening. I hope you're taking notes because she's just whipping out more and more information. Kelly, what else do you have for us that are, you know, entrepreneurs, anyone out there wanting to open up their own floral shop? What else can you teach us?
Oh gosh, I think it's being aware that you're going to be taking a lot of risks, and preparing for those curveballs. Always having a backup plan. I a number of years ago started thinking, what happens if I get sick? What happens if I'm unable to do my job? And so I started running my company, and now I do have a staff. So I know this doesn't necessarily pertain to everyone, but what happens if I'm unable to do my job, and how do I fill those roles? And so I started to look
You
at my
just don't get
company.
sick. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Never,
No,
never.
just
You don't take
just don't get
vacations
sick.
either.
Hop in some vitamin C and you'll be good. I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, you bring up a great point. So yeah, so how do you, I guess, how do you currently market, right, yourself as a company? So again, tips, tools, tricks that you could help provide.
Yeah,
Our
so I'm
listeners.
actually we do a lot of social media. Instagram has always been really wonderful for us because it's such a visual tool, and obviously flowers and cute gift items look great on the gram. We are updating our website right now. We're actually going to have a brand new website that I'm really excited about, that will help us streamline a lot of our emails and our email list, and to sell product through that. which I'm really excited about, our email campaigns. And then actually, like you, I'm starting to consider YouTube, which has been on my list for a long time, which I think is
Yeah.
gonna be a lot of fun.
It's definitely a lot of fun. It's humbling too at the same time. Again, I'm not speaking through experience. I only have about 4 weeks experience, still fairly new, but we're getting it done. Just like anything else. You take one step after the other, and hopefully soon, we'll be running and all that other fun jazz.
I think it's for me, it was always, I think I needed to get over the fact that I am putting my face out there because it's always been about the product and the
Right.
flowers. So just kind of getting over that initial shyness. And then, like I said earlier, it's just like, why am I self-doubting myself?
There is no self doubt because you are the brains behind the brand. That is you, Miss Kelly. You're doing amazing right now already. See. Speaking of which, I know this is a question that we always hear or get a lot as well from other, business owners. Uh, who does and how did you find either who takes the pictures, who does the posting? Again, just basic social media. Any tips on that?
Yeah. So again, fortunately, because we work with weddings, a lot of the wedding photographers send us all of their images. And then of course we credit them.
Right.
So that's incredibly helpful. But in terms of just the day-to-day stuff in the retail,
Yeah.
it's really us as a team collective. I'm still doing all the posting. There are some weeks I use an app when I know I'm going to be really busy, but
Right.
I upload everything. But there's that I still appreciate that authenticity of having the voice of the small business owner behind, and the behind the scenes. And I think that that's what makes people relate to us as a company and to the products that we're selling as well. Um, and what I do also do is, there's some days our staff will, if it's a little slow, we'll put together fun little styled shoots, and that's always great for team building as well. So it's not like I'm taking every photo,
Right.
but kind of making the fun parts of it accessible to the team has been really helpful.
Perfect. And then do you have them uploaded? Where do they upload the file? Do you share your password? Little you see how like it's like little things like that just to think how the operate like how it just actually works because these are questions that goes through like my head too, but like in my case, I have my team, I have them on a Google Drive and we share it that way.
Yeah, so I've done it a few different ways. Sometimes they'll just text me. A lot of
Okay.
times they are uploaded through a Google Drive as well. Especially if we're doing a larger campaign for something where we're really trying to sell a product or we're marketing something. And but I'm the only one with the password. In the past, I've had managers run it, and it just got to be a little too difficult. And it is something, like I said, I still enjoy because I get to connect with people. Um, since I'm a little bit more of a director of operations now than on the, working in the retail or working on the events.
Yeah.
This is my way to stay connected to, who our shoppers are, what they're looking for. And so that's been really fun. So, social media, I feel like it can be so overwhelming and exhausting if it's not what you love. So I think outsourcing and having your team do that for you is a great, great tool. For me, it's really fun still, and I enjoy
Yeah.
it. So that's why I enjoy still keeping all of it together.
Perfect. Are you on the TikTok?
We are on the TikTok. We're, you know,
Are you
it's
the one? Are you the one posting as well?
I'm still posting it, but my team is so wonderful, and they are down for anything I ask them to do with
Yeah.
it. But really, again, it's for us, it's a little bit more about the flowers are so pretty; they speak to themselves, so it's pretty easy.
Yes.
And we are going to start shifting a little bit into making it more educational on TikTok. So tutorials on how to make boutonnieres and retail displays, things like that. So I think it'll be less. Um, business to consumer and a little bit more to business.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That is amazing. I don't know why it took so long because I keep talking about it. And again, it was what you were mentioning earlier of just like the fear and the doubt. And then
Mhm.
so literally, yet 2 days ago, yesterday, I posted my first TikTok and I'm like, this wasn't so bad. Post. So now, so again, my team's like, Roy, you got to do more like every day. Great. And so it's crazy because it does as you're trying to find what you're trying to post. So the creative side, it does take I'm just saying on my end, it does take, it takes a lot of creativity, a lot of
Yeah.
bandwidth overload per
Oh,
se,
yeah. Yeah.
because you have, I'm calling them lanes, right? So you have the retail, you have your events, you have just like walk-ins, right? How does My mind's going crazy with like production and flow, and how do you orchestrate, right? The movement with the team, is one person just in charge of, they're doing all events. So they're looking at it like, we need to prep this a day before. And like, this
Yep.
is how, what if you have like 8 weddings in one day, which I'm assuming might have happened
Yes.
already.
Especially last year.
So like, how does, all hands on deck, like kind of like walk us through that?
Yeah. So what I've learned throughout the last few years is, again, as I was starting to step my role back a little bit and operate as if I wasn't there, I
Yeah.
realized I needed SOPs in place. So in the very beginning, the
All
very
right,
most
for all of our listeners, SOPs are standard operating procedures. But go
yes, thank you.
ahead.
Um, so in the very beginning, I really just wrote everything down I did for about 2 weeks every single day. It was a little tedious, but for a small business, that was the easiest way for me to kind of categorize what I was doing and then build new job descriptions out of the things that I didn't need to do that I could hire somebody for so that I could be a little more effective somewhere else. So that was the very basic, most raw start and building that. And then I learned that, both through an accounting um, mindset and through a day-to-day logistical mindset, I did need two separate teams. I needed to consider the retail and the events two separate businesses. And
Ah,
so we have a GM for retail and we have staff and we have a lead designer for weddings and we have assistant designers. So we really
wow.
very rarely overlap unless it's something like somebody is, unexpectedly out for the day or it's a Mother's Day or Valentine's Day weekend, then we all kind of rally together. We still celebrate collectively as a team. We still do our team building exercises and work together, all of us. But in terms of responsibilities, they're very separated. And so everyone knows what they're doing, but also so everyone can appreciate the work that everyone's doing. No one feels like they're being taken advantage of.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then wow, so by writing out your SOPs in that sense, you were able to now see the bigger picture and learning how to delegate.
Exactly.
How was that part?
The delegating part in the beginning was not easy.
That's always the biggest question every entrepreneur, like, they're in their head, and as they're listening, they're like, "I could do it better."
Mhm.
Right? That's always the weirdest, like, mindset that you hear, because it's your baby, like, you started it, and you're like,
Mhm.
"There's a certain way that I do things, or, X, Y, and Z." How does one overcome that part?
Yeah. I think that in the beginning I actually struggled a little bit because all of a sudden I wasn't doing the same things that my staff were. And I definitely felt, there was a little bit of resentment from some team members. And you get one bad idea that can sometimes poison the well. And so that was a very hard leadership um position that I had found myself in that I never had sort of expected. I thought they were going to be excited, like, oh, great, we can all work together and make our lives easier. So it was through a lot of training and a lot of meetings to get everybody on board for this. And then what I also learned is that I was so used to doing things in my own way for the last, gosh, we really started this about 10 years ago. Um, I was just set because it was the only way I knew, um, that I needed to start to listen to the suggestions my staff were making as well, because that second perspective was really important. And so eventually, what happened was that we started to rework the SOPs and the standard operating procedures. And I think that once you finish writing these out, once you figure out whatever it is and however you decide to write these out, it's not set in stone.
Right.
Something could happen in 6 months where you need to go back and adjust it and make it a little bit more clear for somebody else, or you tried something and it just didn't work, And now it's
That's
time
okay.
for that. Yep.
And that's the key is like that's okay. I always say initially, whenever you don't have anything written down as far as your SOPs, when you do write it down, it's literally just the foundation.
Yep.
I call it the foundation.
I
You
love that.
write it out, and then when the team comes in, my biggest thing, again, from my experience, I too was in the restaurant industry. You know, shout out to Uncle Julio's, 15 plus
Nice.
years.
Yum.
Um, made everybody just hungry right now. No, but again, one of the biggest things that was key was, and again, no shame to all the DOs out there, whichever, but like I'm in it, day in, day out, whether I'm working in the cocktail or in the bar or I'm serving. And like my biggest pet peeve was always like the DO or the head, and it's like, oh no, watch out, the DO's in. I'm like, all right. And they would kind of come in and just say something. And I'm like, dude, you're just putting me in the weeds right now. Like, you're not helping the process. And they're like, but it's the process. It's this. I'm like, yes, but you're just overseeing it. You're actually not in it.
Mhm.
So I took that learning experience, right? So with my team of more so of the aspect of, hey guys, here's what I did
Yep.
to get to where I am today. But if you can make it better, please input because I am all ears to make things a lot more efficient and easier for you to at the same time.
Yep.
So let's do this together.
I love it. I love it.
So that's always been my like little approach to things. But we're actually gonna kind of jump around a little bit. I know we keep talking about numbers and again operations and accounting. Again, any before opening, right? Any accounting tips a florist should know before they open up, if if they're starting out and opening up, any tips that you could probably give them.
Yeah, I think again, and I'm sorry that I keep going back to it, but again, knowing your numbers.
Right.
Um, One thing that I think that I wish I had understood a little bit more from the beginning is, what is your minimum going to be and why?
That's yeah.
I think in the beginning for me, it was like, well, I'm so young, I'm just going to take whatever I can. So there were weekends where I'd have 6 weddings and it was exhausting. And ultimately you do all the math and you ended up not really making a lot of money, versus if you figure out if your minimum needs to start at 3,000 or 10,000 or whatever that number is, knowing that how much work is going to be put into it, how many people you're going to need, and how everyone can walk away being paid what they deserve.
Yeah.
Um, so figuring out that minimum, what is that base number that you need to pay all of the bills and yourself and your staff?
And
Uh,
that's for specifically more so like events?
That would be for events. Yeah,
Okay.
that would definitely be for events. Um, for retail, I think my advice would be it's retail's a little bit harder, I think, because it feels like it was longer for some reason. I don't It feels
Right.
longer than 20 years ago. But again, I think knowing what it is that you want to sell and why it is that you want to sell it and believing in it, as opposed to just having a store with like, well, I think I need to sell candles, creating a story, having a bit of a passion for it and believing in your product. So you don't have to live, the lifestyle of your business. I feel like who I am at the store is different from the person that I am at home, but there's a lot of overlap there. And, channeling the correct overlap into your products. And then also one thing I would have done very differently in the beginning, no matter what business I own and in the
Yeah.
future, whatever happens, is figuring out your marketing. I think that people put marketing to the side. They think, I just need to focus on these big pieces, but the
Yeah.
marketing is actually, massive.
Which is actually perfectly great into my next segue of scaling and growing. So
Mhm.
what did you do in the early days? Because again, I know you mentioned you weren't too sure, or how did you get into the event space right away? Because again, at first you're like, oh yeah, just the rent, people walking in, they forgot a gift. So you're like, all right, that's gonna be my area. But then you're like, wait a second. So how like let's dig in a little bit more there.
Yeah, I think, back in the beginning, again, it went back to a lot of the networking, a lot of figuring out what I was capable of, what I was good at, and then finding the right people that I wanted to work with as well. So for me, personally, finding the right wedding planners that understood our style, understood what I was making, and then could bring the right clients to me.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a huge part of the marketing for me as well. Um, and I'm sorry, I got a little backtracked.
Oh, for
I
sure.
I think that just focusing on making sure that, again, that you're clear on what your message is for your own business too, so you're not taking on all of this work that isn't making you happy. So in my
Ah,
for example, with
yeah.
weddings, anyone can come and say, well, I want this arrangement. But if it's a design that doesn't make you happy, or it's not within your style or your scope, and you start taking those events on, more and more people are going to come to you for that, because that's what they see you producing. So having a clear idea of your brand and what it is that you do, and putting that out there as
Right.
opposed to taking on anything, is massive.
But when you're first starting, is it almost like, all right, I'm gonna take it and right? And again, that's just a question on my end. I'm like, man, I just need business, right? In general. So when you're starting, are you just kind of also learning the traits and finding your brand, finding your style, what you like, what you don't like because you experienced it? Would you
You know,
recommend that?
I honestly wouldn't really anymore. I think every now and then we all take jobs that we're like, okay, this is just going to pay some bills and it's going to be great and it's
Mhm.
easy. And I definitely, we do that from time to time. And it definitely, we don't put it on a social media. We don't put it on our website, because we don't want people coming to us for that specific design. Not that it's ugly or anything, it's just not what we're known for.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I think it's a slippery hill to just start taking anything. Um, because that's also setting expectations of your clients. So later on, when you decide, okay, this is my brand, and someone comes to you and says, well, this is what I want you to make, and you have to say no, that can cause some rift and some negativity with you and the customer. So I really believe, staying true to your brand, doing what it is that you love, um, is important, is really important.
Would you recommend, or what would you recommend any, right, if I wanted to get in, right, the flower business, what would be your tip to me? Would you be like, go to Whole Foods, fill out an application, or do we come to you, right, and be an employee just to kind of see if we like, right, the industry, the vibe first, or just a take on that, right? If
Definitely. I think this day and age now, because we have so many wonderful tools, through the internet, like YouTube, I think that that's really a great start if you're just kind of a novice. A lot of florists and boutique owners are not going to hire unless you've had some sort of floral design experience. And that's because our clients have expectations. And so sometimes we don't necessarily have the time to train. So if you're doing a little bit of back end, take a million photos of the flowers that you're designing, no matter how large or small. Put together a portfolio. There are some great classes out there for flower design specific. If you really want to level up, there's some that are very event driven. And honestly, the best advice that I was given when I was in college was one of my printmaking teachers. And he said, you're all in art school right now, but you have to go take a business class at some point. Like, if you're going to be an artist, that's a business too. You're not an artist. You're not just an artist. And I did not take his advice originally, and I regretted it. So I think anything that you're looking at in terms of a career change, seek out what those business classes are for your industry, the industry that you want to get into. Listen to what people have to say, because it's, for floral and events, it's a lot of heavy lifting, literally a lot of hard work, a lot of emotions, because of the families on the day of. So, you know, find out what those sort of negative parts are about it too, and then take those business classes. And so that way you're ready and you're prepared for when all of it happens.
always learning. Wow, that was an amazing tip. I will thank you for that and sharing that as well. Man, this has been amazing, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We like to end our episode with rapid fire questions. So we have 5 rapid questions. They're fun. Well, all we need is like one worded or a sentence, right? And it'll be nice and easy. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
She's like, man, I didn't even know about this. That's why it's rapid and fun, guys. Um, we'll start off with question number one. What is one thing you can never live without? And it can't be coffee.
um, I love painting, so I need my paintbrushes.
Beautiful. I love that. What do you do to manage your mental health?
Actually, that goes into painting as well.
Which is again really, really good. It is very soothing. What is your current obsession?
Making homemade pasta.
Ooh, actually, I'm going to ask a little bonus question. Is there anything in particular that you're like, I love this style of pasta?
I'm pretty new to it,
Yeah.
but it's a very tactile thing, and it's got some instant results, and it's just we also this is a sidebar, but we raise chickens in Chicago, and it's just there's something so satisfying about going and collecting eggs and then coming inside and making pasta with that, and I love we share it with our neighbors, and it's just a really fun thing.
Fun. I love that. What is a morning routine you have to do?
With my coffee, I love putting, all the different mushroom powders into it. And I love waking up early in the morning, sitting up, drinking that weird coffee mushroom mixture and having, 10 minutes to myself to look out the window.
I love that. Bliss. Bliss. And then the last question. What's a good rule you've learned from someone?
I think just always be make sure you're always listening. Just, never shut anybody off because you disagree. I think that there's so much for all of us to still continue to learn. So be a good listener.
I couldn't have said it any better. I'm always a child. I'm always a sponge. Teach me. I've learned
Mhm.
so much again just in this hour that we were here together. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. Please, guys, let's show some love to Kelly Marie and Fleur and give us a like. Make sure to follow her. All of her information will be in the description below. Make sure, guys, to go ahead and subscribe to our channel. If you have been listening or watching wherever you are in the world, please make sure to provide us and give us a comment. Give us your biggest takeaways and insights and what else you'd like to learn on this channel. Again, we are here to help you and guide you through your entrepreneurial journey. For all you, again, small business owners, we are here. We are going to be your team to help you kind of get through anything and everything that we are or have been going through. So thank you again, Kelly, for tuning in with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again for watching. If you want any more videos just like this one, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and check out these other videos right over here. We post a new video every Wednesday. Thanks again for checking us out.